So here we display the string, the array. The first print int array display the array without changes, and the second print int array print the array when we have already reversed the array. So instead of starting from 1, it starts from the value 10, 9 to 1, like here in the terminal. Someone asked a question about something in the print int print no, in the reverse array function. He asked that if writing something like is front plus length minus 1 is the same as typing array plus length minus 1. What we can say here is that it's not the same, but when you assign, um, it's not the same, but will have the same result anyways. When you assign the value contained in the array variable to front, in between, so the value in these variables is the same as the value in these variables when we are on the next instructions. So either you say front or array, it won't make difference. There's no difference. There's no difference between the values because they all have the same values at that point of your code. But if in between you said something like front is equal something, you change the value front plus 1, the values become different. So the two variables are not the same, but if you look the ways the program is executed from top to bottom, it knows that at that point in time, you knows that the value stored in front is the same as the value stored in array. So typing front plus length minus 1 would have the same result as typing array plus length minus 1, because at that times we want to start the starting address, or so whether you get it from the front variable or from the array variables, it won't make a difference because they have the same values when you are on this instruction. Any other question? So let's move on the next one, how to reverse a string. It is basically the same process we're doing with the strings. We first find out the length and we try to reverse it. Some peoples can use indexes or the square bracket notation to reverse the strings if they knows how to manipulate or change values or make calculations. Uh, you might also find it easy to use pointers instead of using indexes. So let's see how to reverse a string. We're going to create a file, reverse string.c, and the name of the file will be the prototype of the function will be reverse string, and it will receive a string or character. Great. we do know the start of or the front of the string. So I'm going to create a variable called front and we'll assign the start. And we going to create a variable called bag. I'm going to set it to the start. Let's see another way. We can either look for what I call it. Yeah, we're going to look for the length of the string before finding out what is the last address in the string. Uh, here, okay, bag, then int length. We're going to determine the length, going to initiate it 0, and here going to initiate it to null. Um, it's important to initiate your variables when you declare it. It's a good practice, but here we cannot use the null because it's not defined. But for that, I'm going to include the S3 out, or there is a library that contain it, the S3 dev. So this contains constant macros, or you can just include the S3 IO. It will have the same effect. Now, let's create a variables called current. Set it to null if we want. Now let's find out the length. So wow, this is another way of doing it. So the current will start from the start, okay? And the current should be different. The value stored in the current address should be different of the null, should be different than null, then we do plus plus. Then each time we can move forward, that means the length also increase or should increase. At the end of this loop, let's add a command. Determine the length of the string. And after that, what can we do? We going to find out what is the last address or the back. We're going to initiate it to front plus length minus 1, or just the start. It will have the same effect because at that point, the str variables has the same value as the front variables. So it won't make a difference whether you use front or you use something else. Now, next, we are going to reverse the string using the same logic as we did before. But in this case, we're going to declare a temporary variable, going to set it to null. Always good to set your variables when you declare them. Always good to initiate them. It's a good practice. So now let's reverse the string. So while the front is lesser than the back, we save the value of the front in the temporary variables, then we override the value stored in the fronts um, with the value stored in the back. Then now we can override the value in the back with the value we saved from the front. Now, now we're good. This is how we reverse a strings, or we reverse an array of characters. The only difference between the strings and the array is that for the strings, we always have to determine the last character or the last address, or we have to determine the length before going forward. I'm going to split the string in two parts for you to see the similarities. So this is the code for the integer array, and this is the code for the strings. And you see that, oh, sorry, we forgot the front should move forward and the back should move backward. What you can see here, you see that we have the same kind of loop, almost nothing changed. But for the array, the length was given. But for the string, the length wasn't given, so we had to find it by ourselves. We determine the length, then we can continue with our loops. Apart from finding the length, everything is the same. I'm going to close that. Let's test our reverse string function. And I'm going to copy the prototype and pass it into the header file. And here in the main.c file, let's reverse the string and see what's happened. So before the reversal, we're going to display the string using the printf function. So str, and then we call the reverse string str. Then after that, we print our string. That is before the reversal. And that one is after the reversal. Let's compile the code and see. GCC main.c reverse string.c, then the output file, then the main file. Up, it's telling as implicit declaration of function printf. That's because we did not include the standard input output library. So we're going to include it stdio include stdio.h. So now we have the printf function included in our code. Let's execute this function to see. There is a segmentation fault somewhere here. Or I'm going to explain it why. Let's use the print string function for that, and we'll see why. Compile the code. Oh, sorry. Let's fix the code in here first. So here we wanted to reverse the strings. So the program is telling us that there is a segmentation fault. Here we found out the length, so we know the length. Then we know the address for the back. And here we say, well, the front is lesser than the back. Okay, this is a bug, but let's try to debug it. Instead of using a printf function, we're going to use our print string function and see what happened. Okay, then clear the screen and run the main dot. Yes. So the reversal, there is a problem with the reversal. Let's try how to solve or debug this code. Mm, uh-huh. And I'm going to add a print function in here. Include the stdio here just for the debugging purpose. I'm going to display something here. Going to call it 1. And here I'm going to call it 2. And here I'm going to call it going to call it 3. So when the 1 displays, that means everything goes right in here. And when the 2 displays, that means everything goes right. And when the 3 displays, that means everything goes right in the previous step. Okay, let's run the code again. So the first one displayed, this one, it displayed. The second one displayed. Now the third one won't display. So why is that? Okay. I'm going to add a breakpoint here too. 3, and here it would be 4. Compile the code again. So there is no issues on the part. Apart, this loop is not working. Let's see why it isn't working. So we set the temp to front, then the front to the back, and the back to the front. And after that, we move the front forward and we move the back backward. And I'm going to add something here. A, a breakpoint here too. I'm going to call it good. So each time this one displays, we know that the loop was working. It doesn't displays. Let's add it here to see. This is a way to debug your C code. It is a good example. So it means that we have a problem somewhere here. So what is the problem? Going to refer to our reversed. We have the thing here. I think it's basically the same. I'm going to move it here and look if it will work. So there is no problem on that line. Let's see if this one will display. Okay, so the printer good won't display. That means we have a problem here. So the length is not the correct one. Um, so let's try to display the length here. Mm, that wasn't expected, but it's a good exercise to see how we debug a program when such situation occurs. It says that the length is 9. Let's count if the length is 9. In the print of the main function, we see we have 1a, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, but we have nine character. Let's go back in the reverse string. So the length is correct. Now let's make the difference between the front and the back. So back minus front to see the difference if it is 9. Front minus back is 8. That's bizarre. Uh, this thing wasn't expected, but anyway, if it doesn't work out, I think we can stop the session here. Then we'll figure out later why it wasn't working for the reverse string function. Let's delete all those things. And now we should be good. Great. So basically something is not working in these things, but for this session, that's all for today. Um, so for any questions about reversing a strings, basically we had to follow the same process. I don't really see what is wrong in this code, and we'll see. So thank you for your time, and also thank you following these sessions. I hope that it will serve was the people who are following. Stopping the recording for the session. Goodbye.